In an area of social media, when people push pranks to the craziest limits, all they increase their clicks and likes, stuff can get out of control pretty fast. Kyle Vasquez has gained a following, performing some pretty odd pranks, like dumping food over his head in public. But it's some stunts that took place behind closed doors that are now landed him on the radar of the Suffolk County Police.
So it is not hyperbolic to say, in my opinion, that not only people in this country, but across the world, we are done with these nuisance streamers. We're sick and tired of these people who just want to get clicks by any means necessary, and because they have no discernible talent, they're not actually funny. The way that they end up getting these clicks is by annoying the crap out of regular, ordinary people, sometimes going across the world and disrespecting their customs, and this is why you're seeing the crackdown emerge. I'm sure you guys are aware of the situation, and if you're not, of Johnny Somali facing criminal charges in Korea, Vitali, the former prankster YouTuber who was in the Philippines, who's also facing serious charges. And by the way, I kind of feel bad for him because I've seen the state of those Filipino jails and prisons, and it does not look like he's gonna have a good time spending years in there. But of course, we have our own people here at home that are participating in this type of behavior, and one need look no further than outside of New York City in Suffolk County, Long Island, at a man called Kyle Vasquez. Now, Vasquez is facing charges for a whole host of quote-unquote pranks, which is just him acting poorly like a jerk-off across Long Island, and honestly, I would say this is deservedly so, because we need consequences for these individuals. However, maybe they should escalate the charges one notch further, because I don't think this guy is learning his lesson from this particular court case, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
21-year-old social media influencer Kyle Vasquez of Centereach turned his back on the cameras, appeared to bump court officers and attempt to escape through an emergency door of Central Islip District Court. Having just pled not guilty to a slew of charges.
So look, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys out there in the audience. When I examine a story, when I'm sent a local news segment or two, usually there is one moment, a couple of seconds of the video that makes me want to do this particular response. And this is that moment right there. This absolute idiot, this absolute failure in life tried to run away from the cameras, which by the way, he's often pursuing in order to get those clicks, but was so dumb, so piss poor in his attempt at an escape that he ended up running into this emergency exit. The door didn't open for him, and if only this can be our kind of symbol for this man's life, where doors never open for him again. Now, I will also point out that another local news segment, which did not show this amazing footage of him failing this badly,
of Central Islip District Court,
did have a back and forth between him and the court officers. And what I love about this particular footage that I'm about to show you is that the court officers don't have a second to waste on him. They're already annoyed that they have to walk this idiot out, and they are not afraid to let him know it.
Kyle Vasquez is used to chasing likes on TikTok, but not much to like about this obscene gesture at court today.
Hey, what are you doing? What? We're not doing that.
Look, there are a lot of things to hate about New York. There are a lot of things to hate about New Yorkers, but sometimes that New York attitude, even that Long Island attitude, is greatly appreciated. And right there, where they're not taking any of this guy's crap, where he's looking disheveled, humbled, and humiliated, I think that is an A+ moment right there, and a rubber stamp of approval from me to this New Yorker for making him feel this way. And then shortly after that, this absolute idiot runs into the emergency exit, which again is just comedy gold.
Of Central Islip District Court.
Ironically, this guy who never did anything funny in his entire life finally did do something funny, but guess what? Just like this criminal case that's against him, the joke is also on him.
Vasquez poured a bucket of beans over his head and onto the floor of Winghua restaurant, forcing owners to close early and clean up the mess.
How are you? I can't imagine why they do this night.
So these are the types of pranks that this guy engaged in. And this is the type of content that he puts up on the internet. He brings a bunch of crappy food into a restaurant, into people's place of business, business, dumps it on himself, and then just leaves. He takes off after he gets the footage, and honestly, this is the perfect distillation of how many obnoxious social media influencers feel about your average everyday working people. They think that these people exist just to be props for them. They never think about the fact that this is their place of business, this is their sanctuary, this is how they feed their family, so this guy just leaves it in disarray and takes off because he already got what he needed out of them. And honestly, this is the behavior that needs to be condemned. This is the behavior that needs to be punished, because this is the worst aspect of humanity. And I know that might sound hyperbolic, but the fact is, that's exactly what we see right here. And by the way, this place of business is called Wingwan. And look, honestly, if you're in and around this area, I believe it's the Wingwa location in Port Jefferson, then support this business. They got a 4.3 in terms of their reviews on Google. The food looks decent. And again, these people need to be shown that they're the ones who matter. And the prankster scumbags, they're the absolute losers who can't even open a door. Again, let's see that footage just one more time.
Of Central Islip District Court. Vasquez has 100,000 followers on TikTok, 5 million on Instagram. In this posting, he poured a huge container of eggs on his head and then fled Ralph's Italian Ices, leaving behind eggs and broken shells, recording and uploading the video.
Now again, what's entertaining about this? What's funny about this? Eggs were really expensive at the time that he decided to do this. He dumps it on his head. It's like, oh, look, I got egg on my head. So funny, so much comedying. And by the way, the business is going to have to deal with this. And make no mistake about it, they have to clean this up, because if people slip and fall in front of this business location and get injured, they're the ones facing liability, despite the fact that Kyle Vasquez right here is the person guilty of this. Now, oftentimes, I'm in favor of jail, severe criminal consequences, but I think forcing him to do community service, forcing him to clean up the sidewalks and the streets of Long Island from the messes that other people actually leave on those places would be a good example of a punishment that is tailor fit to the crime. But this individual is not going to stop with a slap on the wrist, so you're going to have to attach some serious penalty to this as well. Now, by the way, it's not just business owners that this guy harasses. Apparently, one of his pranks, one of his jokes, just a meme bro kind of deals, is that he will knock on people's doors saying that he has an emergency and needs to use the bathroom, and then he'll destroy the bathroom. He'll leave an absolutely disgusting mess on these people's property, take advantage of their generosity, quite literally these people opening their door to him, because that's the joke. That's the comedy. That's the prank. And again, he doesn't even have enough respect to clean it up. It's that mindset that people are props, that people without platforms don't matter. And again, it's just absurd. This is what happens when you have no grasp on reality, when you become obsessed with likes and comments and social media, and you don't actually exist in the real world. You engage with other people like this, and I find it to be disgusting, and he needs to serve consequences. Now, for whatever reason, the local CBS News affiliate decided to go to an expert to talk about this. And by expert, I mean probably some professor who doesn't know anything about social media. And this guy has a very noticeable heavy accent. And I'm not saying, to be clear, that people with heavy accents aren't intelligent or can't bring up good points. But what I am saying is, I've no real clue of what this guy is saying after watching it once, and I had to rewatch it because his English, not the best, maybe not the best person in low quality video to interview to discuss this particular situation.
Social media platforms sort of manipulate the users. The main reason is the need for attention.
Colorado State professor Hamid Sarimi researches and writes about social media trends.
We call this high risk, high reward. One reason we call them dangerous behaviors is because of the negative consequences that it has both for the influencer and for the others.
Negative consequences for the influencer and the otters. I don't know what sea life has to do with this particular situation, Colorado State professor, but again, you didn't really add anything to the conversation, and our local CBS affiliate kind of wasted time by calling a professor at the University of Colorado to say that, oh, we call these negative social media behaviors, because these are not good things to do, and they end up on social media, and then adding sage wisdom that we could not have possibly computed in our brains without a Colorado State professor, like, oh, well, they do this for attention. People are on social media trying to gain followers and views because they like attention. Thank you, professor. Thank you, our expert professor, for bringing this up. I really appreciated this interview right here. None of us could have figured this out for ourselves. And for God's sake, let us get on this and save those otters, because they're being put in danger by this individual. I don't exactly know why, but I will be investigating this. Again, just jokes, people, just trying to have fun. The local news is so goofy that you just gotta make fun of them for doing stuff like this.
Vasquez lives with his mother. 4 friends picked him up from court and they departed taunting and jeering. Vasquez was issued 5 stay-away orders from those he allegedly pranked, including homeowners who police say he tricked by telling them he needed to use their bathrooms and then leaving a mess behind.
So again, if you think this guy learned anything, he's running away to cheers from his friends, from people who participate in this behavior, and obviously this is something that we can expect because these social media influencers, these pranksters, think that any kind of attention is good attention. But in reality, this guy's an absolute scumbag, and of course they end up cutting to the pranks, wink wink, that I told you about earlier, where he ends up destroying people's bathrooms, making an absolute mess after taking advantage of their generosity.
He probably is chasing social media fame, but again, there are consequences for that. But what he's also chasing is the dollar. He makes money off this.
Prosecutors say the so-called social media prankster faces fines and, if convicted, up to 4 years in prison for his alleged exploits.
Now, we end up closing out with a message from the chief of the Suffolk County Police. I think it's a good message, but it's a standard message, so I don't really need to play all that much for you guys out there in the audience. Again, he is no professor of social media studies from the University of Colorado State, so we can't expect him to speak to the issues and how it impacts the otters. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it today. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about all of this down in the comments below. What do you think should be done to these social media influencers? Harsh jail, community service where they have to clean up after they make messes in the world? Or maybe, I don't know, exile, put them out on a boat and say, it's just a prank, bro. Enjoy floating out in the Pacific Ocean. And yes, I know New York is closer to the Atlantic Ocean. I know he's on Long Island. But yeah, we should take him to the Pacific. Just float him out there. Bigger ocean, bigger consequences, and maybe those otters can get revenge on him if we float him out over there. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a prankster getting some comeuppance. Till next time.